Okay, now let's try it. Do we have sound? About 30 seconds. Okay. Excellent. Alright, everybody. Sorry about that. We always have fun technical problems. Yay! And we have echo. Yes, one of this. I mean, yeah, so that's where it's going to be. I think I know what it is. Who is echoing? So overall here to echo. I think I know what's going to be it. That might be it. Let's see if we have any. Make sure that we can hear me. I think we need that. Listen. Okay, they're only hearing me. They should be all here, so we're not getting all three of us. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's in there, but that's everybody.
And then we're using Skype another time.
I don't think that's it. Okay, made a setting change to see if we have everybody.
Okay. Testing.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Yeah, I know I can hear my own echo, but now I'm not listening.
Oh, okay, they can hear us now.
Oh boy.
Hi, Bluegrass.
Okay, good. Okay, yes, 5 hours of trouble. I hear and no echo. Good. Found it.
Excellent. We did it.
Okay,
Right.
so it's always fun that the first 5 minutes of this is always just fixing problems. But we're here, we're live, you can hear us all, we can finally talk about this and see who's talk about the win. So as we were talking about briefly, and we will restart talking about, this was the hardest competition we've ever put you guys through. It was ridiculously hard. There was plenty of space to do it, but the compact time period to get it all done meant a lot of people were cramming track together, ran out of time to support it at all. Crashed into supports a lot, lots of errors in there, and a bunch of other problems that in the end, with the 19 entries that we came in, only 5 made it through to get fully judged without being disqualified for obvious reasons or another. So we all took the initial entries that were in here, split them up between the 3 of us, and very few survived to get a full rating from the whole team here. Of the ones I went through, there was one in particular I want to call out that as an honorable mention that I felt so bad having to disqualify it, as it was just so close. I loved the ride. It was from, let's see, which one was it? Yeah, it was from Revolution, entered by Coaster Atlantic. It was 30 feet short, or 22 feet short of the required length. And I measured it 3 times, really hoping to make it through because there were a lot of really cool elements in there. But every time I measured it and was checking the border boundaries at the Blue Lake, 22 feet short. That one hurt.
Sad.
That one hurt. It was such a good
Yes.
ride. And there's so many good things in there. And yeah, we couldn't do it because that was the key requirement, was a mile of track inside the blue area. So those are my thoughts. Gentlemen, what do you guys think?
Yeah, so I had also made a news post on No Limit Central about this. As I was grading, just kind of impromptu, I decided to do it because, yeah, I mean, this year was extremely challenging, and a lot of times when we're drafting, like me and Tom usually bounce ideas back and forth about the challenge for next year, and a lot of them sound impossible to us. So this was something that also sounded impossible to me, but like a doable impossible, as he shows with the 2 flight of fear buildings with extra space to spare. So I thought, sounds like a good challenge. Let's go for it. And yeah, I mean, really, I think the pressure was on for sure. And a lot of that was just due to the sheer length. I mean, not just compacting it into the space, but also just how much track people had to lay down in 5 hours was tremendous. And then trying to fix all the technical issues. I mean, there are just lots of clearance failures and block issues. Quite a few entries that just didn't even have a train complete the layout, so you can't really grade it because you just enter a deadlock and you're like, well, I'm sitting here on the mid course, can't really ride the second half, can't really do anything about this. Um, so yeah, definitely the biggest challenge yet, I would say. I mean, the disqualifications speak for itself. So
And we're going to post the full list and all the feedback for everybody because we gave feedback for everybody that took the time to power through this and send something in whatever shape it was in. We gave you feedback on
yes,
what we liked, what were the improvements needed, and then of course if you got disqualified for some reason, we explained it and gave some suggestions for that. So we're looking at in the area we try to make it give you some creative area to play with, some room underneath Manic to play with. Manic, such a beautiful, excellent, outstanding coaster that we absolutely love.
Code loves it the most.
Oh, he does. There were some other subtle challenges in here too. We marked off those coasters to make sure that you couldn't go through the shuttle and wooden coaster year challenge. And another subtle trick that kind of threw a lot of people off was that with the requirement that you could not go through the path, you had to go over the path with a reasonable clearance. That meant that your stations were all higher off the ground than you might think. And given that this was such an endurance challenge to have so much coaster with a lot of and maintain momentum so you can actually get through the layout, a lot of you guys were crawling to make it to that higher than normal station height.
Yes.
And that also was a little hidden challenge. We like to throw little hidden aspects of the challenge in there to make it a little bit harder in ways that people didn't quite anticipate or plan for. So that was one of them. We gave you a lot of clear space over here to build in, which is where just about everybody put their stations. Also a little bit of clear space. If you poked your way around Manic, there was clear space here when you got rid of trees, which some people took advantage of. But generally, yeah, this was the absolute hardest thing that we've ever had you guys do. Only 5 went through to final judging. So let's find out who those people were and the ranking from 5 to 1 about what happened. So
Let's
starting,
go.
let's take a look. So the first one that we're going to take a look at in 5th place, we have Malachite by Jeffrey Oliver. So this one was a clever coaster. You guys will see it in lives in just a moment. Uh, what I liked about this design is that this was a very clever way to solve this. They went with a RMC T-Rex inspiration, which allowed for very tall, spindly supports, fewer supports in general, and also a kind of a narrower style of coaster, so that you're not taking up that much space with getting in your own way. It gives you a little more clearance. So a lot of cool ideas. Great first drop. We're going to go ahead and take a ride now. But what I found after that great first drop and some intense high Gs, after a while it starts just kind of meandering. It struggles a little bit to make it through. It just barely clears through the end of the layout, and it fails E-stop in that if a train stops on the first block break, it can never start rolling again under its own power.
Yep.
It just sits there. It's slightly inclined forward, but not enough to actually overcome friction and get it moving again. And these are just some of the mistakes that were overlooked as you guys were in such a rush to try and put everything together. James, your thoughts?
I thought it was a pretty good ride. It was definitely really unique. The fact that he tried to create like a T-Rex sort of layout within the 5 hours, and definitely the very long length requirement. For the most part, I thought the layout was kind of repetitive, where it was just a lot of flat, flat banking turns and overbanks, whatnot. I thought probably like the part that stood out the most to me was the weird non-inverting loop that he included. I thought that was pretty
Yeah, that
cool.
was really good. Yep.
Some good moments of airtime, but overall there's some supports that are definitely missing. It looks like he tried to support some parts. You can see like the track connectors where he, I guess, planned to support there,
Yep.
but I think he never got around to it. And that's like the challenge with this year's, requirement.
Hmm.
Definitely getting supports done.
Yeah, with having to compact so much track in the same area, one of the things that most people weren't planning for was that as you built all your track first, including track above other layers of track, and then forgot that you needed to leave room for supports to go through all that, which
For
makes it
sure.
really, really hard to
Yep.
thread all those needles through.
So yeah, picking up off of that, yeah, support clearances, there were quite a few major infractions, especially near the end. And these are things that we didn't disqualify for because so few people just survived the rules. um, these were more of just huge docks on the realism score. Um, there was something pretty interesting about this entry that I
Pang.
picked up on. I don't know if
We all died.
this was. Sorry, what was that?
We all just died.
What?
Oh.
Went right through a support.
Oh, um, sorry, I wasn't watching the stream. So one thing I picked up on that was pretty interesting is it looked like he moved the ride up as he kept building. So I think there was a speed issue, and this is something that kind of was a recurring theme for this year, is people would run out of speed, and I noticed rides would be elevated as they kept building. And so I think there are parts of this ride that are like if you look at the very bottom of the ride, it's quite high off the lake for kind of no reason at all. And I think some of that is just running out of speed, raise the whole coaster up, keep building blows. So I kind of had this polar coaster feel to it almost.
Hmm.
Um, and then, of course, now, as you can see on the stream, we're entering the absolutely slow finale.
Just
So,
barely creeping through.
yeah,
Yeah.
the start of the ride was great, and it just loses steam. And that combined with the support clearance issues being pretty brutal, yeah, definitely puts it at a solid fifth place. But yeah, it survived, so I think that can be commended all by itself.
Yeah, it was very difficult this year to just get through everything. So that's why, if we were disqualifying people for any, where's my fly view? Why am I having so much problem? There we go. If we were disqualifying people for just hitting a support, we would have had, or for support clearances problems in general, we would have had nobody win. Nobody, the few people that actually had perfect on the clearance issues, uh, were disqualified for other reasons. So, and actually, we can see the problem has picked up after the first couple of coasters made it through. We then had blocking issues, and you can see that the coaster on this block break has failed to roll forward.
But we did get our one ride,
We
so as
did
long
get
as
our
you
one
ride the
ride.
first train,
Yeah.
you're
First
good
train
to
of the day,
go.
you're good, and after that, all the trains are just staying put. So, to let everybody know how we were judging it, we had four categories. We had creativity, originality, realism, and fun. The creativity was kind of looking at what was your approach to solving the problem of cramming so much track into a small area. So we were rewarding more unique solutions when you made it look like you had an idea of what you were doing and you weren't being kind of random and scattered things through there. And you definitely had some kind of a solution in place. So for me, this one I rewarded for a lot of creativity points because of the very spindly nature of it. Made a good way to get that much track by giving you so much vertical space to play in and a narrow train to cram more track in there. I rewarded that part of it. The originality was looking at what unique elements that you created for your coaster, something interesting, a new idea of some sort, not just doing the same standard things we see all the time or lots of S curves back and forth. Something cool and unique, and that you managed to come up with a unique original idea or two while cramming the coaster through here. Realism looked at all the technical elements, quality of your supports, quality of the blocking of running the trains around, the forces involved, kind of crammed a lot of things in there about how realistic a coaster you created. And then fun, that was the judges like, how much fun did we have riding this ride, which would also include a little bit on the pacing side. So you would suffer on fun if you were crawling into the final brake run without quite getting there. So this one got fifth place as the lowest score, but it did survive through to get a full judge, and congratulations just for making through there. So we'll go ahead and close that one out and go into fourth place. See who got that. Fourth place, we have Tidal Wave by Lost Soul 1599. Kids and all your numbers. So this one, more of a Intamin launch, which was pretty common this year. Lots of Intamin launch things. Lots of track crammed in a small area. I'm going to bring up my notes on it as it continues to load. So you guys go ahead and get going while someone else start.
So yeah, this one was a pretty good entry. There are a few other glaring issues with this as well. I had put in my notes the crawl on the large loop, which I'm sure you'll see on the stream, but I am pretty sure a light breeze would, yeah, it would definitely valley. Otherwise, I thought there were a lot of cool moments on this. Generally like the shaping and we try not to get too technical with this contest, but there were some good moments on here, some okay moments, but this ride did have like a lot of interesting elements. One being this turn that turns into this like diving roll corkscrew thing. So yeah, it was a good mixture of everything. There are a few parts that were just, again, the loop, a couple supporting issues here and there. I don't know if this one had any clearance things. Yes, yeah. A few clearance issues. But yeah, overall pretty good. The only other major critique is the misspelling of Tidal Wave. I couldn't really get over that. I still think it's pretty funny. So, but yeah, also the colors look good. They look like the wild berry Pop Tart, and I think that's awesome.
It's one of the best Pop Tarts.
Absolutely. So I really enjoyed the parade of interesting elements here, as I wrote there. The lots of cool things that got a huge originality score for me. The outward bank top hat, that slow loop that we just went through was very slow. Yeah, any kind of a light breeze or a heavy rider at the back of the train, you're not making it through there. But still, a lot of cool things that went into that. That was one of the highlights of this one. That it was so good that way. The ride pacing for me suffered a little bit because the trains will always stop waiting for launches as they're waiting for that last train to clear the final brakes, and then the train can go off the second launch, and then the train can go off the first launch once all those blocks clear up. So they needed another block break in there. We do crash through a support, so we're all dead again. So it had to hurt on the realism score there, which is a shame because the forces were otherwise much better
Right,
controlled.
yeah, they were great, yeah.
But we had to, since we were allowing coasters that otherwise had support crashes to go through, we had to punish that hard in the realism score. So it was kind of rough. So, but that said, a lot of really cool elements in here. We're very happy to talk about this one a little bit further and add it into the final.
I agree.
Excellent. Thanks for all that input.
Yeah.
That was kind of me last year though too, James. So don't worry. I
mean, like,
I
there's
agree
not-
with
there's not-
everything you guys
There's not
said.
too much else I can add to that. Like, you guys touched on everything that I had in my notes.
Awesome. I had another thing. This is just kind of a dumb thing, but I described the track work as wavy, and I thought it was fitting given the theme called Tidal Wave. So
Yes.
Yeah.
suppose that's a plus.
Yep, it actually worked. And as we mentioned at the outset, this weird outward bank top hat that actually worked. It didn't have deadly forces, and it was a really cool, bizarre, unique thing. And that's people that managed to create some unique elements inside of having to pound their way through this ridiculous contest and cram everything here. We were appreciative of that. So worked out pretty well there. Shall we go on to the next one?
Think so.
All right. Next up, we'll see who got third place. And third place we have Codemaster.
Drum roll.
The Cadbury
Hershey
Trademark
Park.
Express.
Except not Hershey Park because it's Cadbury.
We'll take a look at this. We got a beautiful image of the of Cadbury Express here. I think this was the best, most dramatic angle for that. So, good job, Codemaster, for that one. We'll start talking about it. Who shall go first? James, you take this
I'll
one.
go first. Okay. I thought the ride was really interesting. It reminds me a lot of I-305 obviously is a lot of low to the ground, flat turns, switchbacks, you know. I really like how you included the top hat halfway through the layout. I thought that was relatively interesting, an interesting design choice. I also see that you took advantage of the space outside of the build area to really build the layout out there. Um, I think I forget what I was gonna say. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Goodness, James.
I'm sorry.
Dropping
I'm very sorry. The layout, it was fun. I thought that it was, I don't know, a little bit too much for me, honestly. Like, there's just a lot of everything going on.
Yes.
But yeah, that's really all I have to say about it.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, this is the unintended side effect of me and Tom's rules for this year. Like Code kind of found a loophole as far as like he kind of went against the grain of the contest. I mean, yes, it's compact and it kind of dodges itself, but we didn't really anticipate Giga Coasters. Um, and so yeah, he kind of took a sledgehammer to the template. Um, but I think that presented its own challenges as well. Speed was a huge issue here. I mean, he's just making these frantic passes through the template to just get some yards of track thrown in there. Um, Definitely an exciting ride. Uh, I think if he so I know Code was trying to make this a Giga Coaster just to say that it was a Giga Coaster. I think if he made the lift shorter and kept it in this hyper configuration, just had a bit less speed and actually worked on it for the last 30 minutes, I think this could have been uh, possibly like even higher than where it is now. I think really it's just rushed and definitely exciting, but just a lot to take in. And I also noticed there were some interesting kind of multi-zone collisions, which I don't think many other people were checking for, but I noticed when I was riding it, uh, there's a lot of things that pass clearance on paper, but if you're to actually put trains through the zones together, the classic tunnel test, as you will, um, a lot more infractions in that way. But again, just some minor realism points being docked off there. I think really the realism hit for this ride was its absurd size and G forces that are relentless. And yeah, I guess final thoughts. The Manic Sucks rockwork was very fancy, but I think ironically this ride actually helped Manic. So I know Code's original intention was to dominate Manic, and I think he only helped it. So that's a plus. That got you an extra zero point 0.1 points for helping Manic, the already excellent coaster from 5 Hop World.
Incredible.
Yep. Yeah, my thoughts are very much echoed here. For me, I think Code's idea, he wanted to do it all with one giant lift, which would give you enough speed to have enough track for that. But the problem is when you're going that fast, you can't change direction that quickly, which meant that he had lots and lots of track burning off speed out here in non-scoring areas that were not adding to the track count inside of the lake. And also, when you're going that fast and you're trying to change directions, then you're adding a lot of force to try and do that if you're trying to make it tight and compact. So Giga and compact don't go together very well. Plus, making an I-305 style ride, he certainly did that, but I-305 works because it's brief. Doing I-305 stuff constantly over and over again, we just basically are just large high G turn after large high G turn after large high G turn after large high G turn. Became very repetitive. The second half of that, after the block break, finally introduced some inversions and some other more unique elements, which were really cool and interesting. And then as he ran out of speed, he had to have this launch hill thing leading into a top hat. After the top hat, now he's desperately trying to get to the track length needed, wrapping lots of high G helices together to try and cram them in at the base of all the supports just to hit the track length, which he did, but he's getting close to 6 Gs of force for long durations of time. That's going to kill people. Plus, what is this? What uphill tire brake run?
I think if I remember correctly from Patrick's stream, I think he increased the friction on the ride, so he sort of did that to himself.
Uh-huh. Yeah, he did.
He definitely did that to himself.
And it was a lazy cop out, and he knows it because he did this to himself, and then thought, uphill tires, brake run here to get that fourth train up the hill is an acceptable solution. And no, that's not an acceptable solution.
Hey,
So
the ultimate has a chain lift to bring it up 10 feet to the station.
it does.
I don't
Chain
think
lift.
that.
A chain lift that in the rain will work. You add some rain to that, and it's not going to work. So, yeah, no, we had to hit him a little bit for that. The curved unload station, that's fine. That's normal. But that said, we do give Code a hard time. He is brilliant at this. He has very arguably the smoothest track in the whole contest and the most realistic supports overall. It is a very well supported coaster. Only a couple of gaps that are extended over the walkway that he didn't quite build something for. But generally, it's a very well supported coaster, very realistically supported. The angles on these support turns are all very well handled. So again, great job. And then building the tower supports for that giant gargantuan drop, which is also a clever solution because vertical drop track like that is all adding extra yards to your score inside the score area. So a lot of clever ideas here, but he did ironically build himself into a corner by going so fast. Figuratively speaking, built himself into a corner, which caused a lot of problems that ultimately derailed his score. That if he was not being so stubborn to go with a bad idea and carry it through to completion, regardless of the effects, he could have easily placed higher and if not won the contest. So we'll see what he comes up with next year. Still waiting for his 4D entry. It'll be great. All right, so we'll go on and see who got second place. And second place is Cursed Karnan by Darkstar.
I love this name.
Yes, we did too, and we can definitely see the influence of Karnan on this ride design. And there are a lot of really cool things going on in this design.
Yes.
When I went to take the screenshot for the loading screen, it very purposefully highlighted this feature, which is one of the coolest features of the whole ride, and one of the coolest things that somebody brought out for this whole contest. So let's go ahead and hop on board for a ride. Justin, you take this one.
Yeah, this is I actually really really like this ride. I liked it more than I thought I would. Because when I saw the Helix, I was like, oh, here's another person that needs to add a lot more track and all this stuff. But I don't know, with it being well supported and kind of in this interesting configuration, it kind of made it a centerpiece for the ride in a way. It's definitely a creative way to just get a lot of track put in there. But he owned it. He did the huge center support with these tree branches carrying it. Kind of had the rest of the track coil around it. It reminds me, and I've kind of picked up on this after the fact. There is a Togo concept for Fiesta Texas that just has this death helix spiral, and it just reminded me of that. So that was kind of neat. Definitely more of a creative entry. Overall, there's a few. The supports are pretty good all around. A lot of custom work. A few unsupported areas or just places low in supports. First half, great job. Second half, definitely ran out of steam. But yeah, I mean, this was unique. It was cool. Had a funny name. I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it quite a lot. This one had an interesting asterisk that we all included in our notes that it actually crashes into Centurion, but we did not hold that against it because Centurion was not included on the map because we didn't think anybody would build that far away from the scoring zone. So it's something that if this one had won the overall contest and was going to be added into the official 5-hop park, that a couple of slight modifications to the area that does crash into Centurion would have been fine because it wasn't even in the scored area. It was after that second launch going in the outside area. So the big helix for me was awesome. Is a helix? Yeah, that's an easy way to get a lot of track in there. But by making it, kind of have that why am I blanking? A cheetah run type of launch up into it and then having the radius get larger as you go by and making it all off of one big support column with the trees branch, it became visually exciting, and it looks great, rides great, and is definitely a center focal point of the ride. So yes, you added a lot of track with a quadruple helix in there, but you made it really, really cool, and that kind of creativity, again, was rewarded with more points. Clearance inside of that thing got a little tight, and and it does start to peter out a little bit near the end, which is something that was kind of affecting everybody. But managed to make it over without an uphill tire run, so that was good. And a lot of good work with a lot of the supports. It's a little skinny in a couple areas. Again, the hardest thing for everybody was crossing that path, because you'd have to build some kind of a custom bridge in a couple places every time everybody did that, and people were struggling just to get anything finished. But overall, this was a good ride where you could see there was a very central design concept that was executed very well throughout. A good variety of elements. It kept changing what it was doing throughout, and different kinds of different elements, different pattern of ride pacing that we liked quite a lot.
Yeah, I was honestly really surprised when I first rode this coaster on how well the track work was, like, or how good it was, because it's surprisingly smooth. There's not too many pumps throughout the layout, especially for, I guess, any coaster that would have no pumps at this size and the time constraint that they were under would be impressive. And I was also really impressed with the support structure on the lift hill, because that is
Yeah, that was good too. Yep.
a lot of support work, and it looks great.
Yeah, this is a lot of work, especially given this contest. So, and it follows Karnan's drop pattern as well. It doesn't have the elevator portion, but it's still the spirit of Karnan is here.
Spoilers.
Oh yeah, nothing happens inside that tower. Nothing at all.
Nothing is inside it.
Nothing. Don't worry about it. Uh, so again, great work. A lot of great, and it was very highly regarded by everybody there. If it had a tad more speed to carry it in the brake run with a little more force there, a little better on the clearance of that tower, then it could very well have won. It's an excellent overall effort. So, shall we find out who won?
Yes, let's do it.
Or we can just end it here and just not announce it.
I can figure it out.
Let's see who won. And the winner, Blue Thang by Coaster Mac 305.
What a name.
Yeah, absolutely. And this one, universally regarded as the best submission overall. This was just plain a really good coaster. Great variety of elements, very smooth, and the ride for me had a nice, as we see when we finishes loading, it had a great progression as we went through, where it actually kind of built the intensity. Each of the three sections of the ride built upon each other, getting a little bit bigger, a little bit faster, and a wonderful variety of elements all the way through. Very smooth. The sport work is very good all the way through. Just an outstanding effort. Period. It was universally our favorite ride.
Yeah, I think this was definitely one of the most well-polished rides that we received in the submissions. Mostly everything about it is very well done. Aside from some supports, looks like some prefabs got messed up. They're definitely spread very wide when they're low to the ground. There's a part where there's like a weird roll, and it's definitely under-supported. I think it's like a
Yep.
Yeah, I think I noticed that part too.
like a 40-meter gap with like no supports or something like that.
Yeah,
But
near the end, there's a long gap just floating in space there.
The layout's really nice, and I like how it sort of pops in and out of the build area just to add that, the other launches that the ride has, and I think the top hats and whatever else he had after the launches were really well thought out in general.
Yeah, just it felt like he was not just constantly randomly adding track in there to try and hit the length and like, oh crap, I need another 1,000 feet. What am I going to do? It felt more like he had an actual purpose. Every time he came back in there, every piece of the design work was great because it just kept building, and it all felt like he intended to do everything he did. He had a good idea, kept going with it, and everything worked out really, really, really well. Again, lots of great unique elements in here as well. Great pacing where it just builds on the intensity. It doesn't get repetitive. It keeps throwing new things at you. So when you're dealing with a really long ride like that, that's one of the biggest challenges. How do you keep it interesting? How do you make it unique all the way through and not just keep repeating the same move over and over again. And he did an excellent job with that.
Yeah, and I think really another thing this ride did super well is it kind of stayed in the spirit of the contest. Like this is actually what we envisioned people would do.
Definitely.
It's a spaghetti bowl of track in the blue area, and this like really stuck to that ethos. And it was like this was actually the first entry I rated. I think because we just sorted it in alphabetical order by name, and I was pretty hyped to see the rest of the results. And it turned out this was probably the best thing I wrote. And I remember rating it, a little bit more harshly at first, for some things like supports. And man, after looking at all the other entries, I was like, wow, this is actually surprisingly polished.
Very good.
Again, like the others had mentioned, the pacing and the intensity of elements progresses. It gets stronger as it keeps going. I think I had it in my notes as maybe this was created out of desperation, like, oop, I got to get more speed and I got to get more track, but like it worked, which is kind of awesome. Yeah, lots of parts of this ride just really worked well. Again, fit the spirit of the contest. Shaping was pretty good, a few weird spots here and there, but yeah, man, this was fantastic. Definitely the unanimous winner, I think, for all of us. We had it in our highest rankings. So, yes, not really much else to say. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely, very awesome. I can find the unsupported track section in here. There it is. So here you can see the roll. Those on the live stream, you'll see the roll, and then this goes into this high G churn. And
Yeah, that dive loop is also pretty intense and a little bit under supported, but man, I mean, again, it's just like there
yeah,
almost wasn't a single entry that had it absolutely right. So,
yep. And anybody
yeah,
that had one thing absolutely perfect, like absolutely no clearance issues at all, had other problems. It's so when we look back on this one, and after reviewing all of them and then applied the curve to the grading of the ones that did make it through, this was the highest score from everybody, just absolutely universally. So, again, congratulations, Mac. Great, great, great work. This was an outstanding element, and we are proud to make this a permanent part of Five Hop Park.
and happy to see him win because he has been competing a lot in the past, and he's had some top 5 finishes before. I think 2 of them, maybe at least that I can recall. So, yeah, good to see him finally take it.
Absolutely. Congratulations again.
Good
It's going to
job.
make a beautiful compliment to Manic right next door, which we of course would love Manics. But all in all the rides inside of Five Hop Park are just we're very proud to have them there, and I think it's very fitting that they get to join the overall full park, which I'll go ahead and load up here as it finally gets in here. This is the new splash screen. I'm going to upload all of these so that you can have the most recent version of the overall park, plus the winners with their official splash screens in there as well, for everybody can enjoy those. And we'll see what we have for next year. We've already got our challenge in mind, and well, just to tell everybody a little bit, when we're looking at the design challenge that we're trying to come up with, we're trying to come up with something that you can't prepare for.
Yes.
You can't have an idea already ahead of time. You can't have made some elements to import because the way that the template is shaped or the requirements are such that it's not going to allow you to do that. Because otherwise that'd be cheating. You'd have enough time to prepare, and it's not an even footing of everybody finding out with half an hour in advance what your challenge is to then figure something out. So, and also whenever we can come up with a challenge of something that people don't regularly build, that also makes it an even playing field because you're all trying to figure out how to do it at the same time. So it's really going to be very interesting to see. I've got the idea for next year already set up. It will be again something people have just not done, and we'll have to be figuring out as they go. And the custom supporting is going to be ever so important in this one. You're not going to be able to prefab and edit your way through it. Is that a clue?
Absolutely.
What could that possibly mean? And no one will be able to
Hmm.
figure it out. So we're just about done here. Here we are, full Five Hop Park with all the amazing coasters that have been built as we add a new one every year for the last 5 years. It's an amazing accomplishment, amazing piece of work for everybody here to have added to this. So if one of your coasters is featured here, please feel very proud of the effort you have put in, because you guys have all continued to add to this park and make it more and more amazing. This is a beautiful community park, considering that this is 25 hours of work, plus all the work that we've put into adding extra things in the background. But great job, great work. Keep everything up. Keep doing what you guys are doing. I appreciate everybody here. And we'll see you next year for 5 Hours of Power 6. Have a great rest of your day. And pretty soon we'll have Roundup 300. Looking forward to seeing what is out there
Spicy.
and who wins the posters from Made to Thrill.
Boy.
Looking forward to it.
It's going to be
Peace
great.
out, everyone.
Thank you, everybody, again for participating and building. Keep those skills going, and we'll see you again next year for 5 Hours of Power 6.